Hey, Hunters, Halozu here for another One D&D video, talking about the expert classes and their two versions. So if you didn't see the previous videos, you'll basically be seeing me go through both versions of a certain class. In this case, my favorite, the Ranger, and I'll be looking at them, talking about what was good and bad about each version, and we'll go from there. Uh, so we have the Ranger here right now. So right off the bat, I have to say that the Ranger, it's been a relatively positive one in 1D&D, though it does have a few minor issues, with the big one being that they're tied to the primal spell list as a whole in these two versions, which is going to be changed in the next UA, where they have their class spell list back, so that'll solve a lot of issues in the next Unearthed Arcana, as they realized, oh wait, there's some problems with druids suddenly having all their spells. Yeah. But overall, Ranger here in this first one. So let's get into it. So right off the bat, we have expertise. I actually like the idea that they get expertise at first level. As much as I liked the previous, the canny and all that from the current 5e, expertise, it's fine. It's what they're supposed to, like, they're supposed to be experts. This is the expert thing. So having expertise straight up, I'm good with. And as we'll see, where they went next is kind of a weird one. But expertise here, it's good. It's better than canny because you get two things out of it. And the extra languages were honestly always kind of weird. I feel like extra languages should be a wizard thing, not a ranger thing. But this is the world we lived in forever, where rangers are somehow the linguists of the group. Then we have spellcasting at first level. So this is an interesting change, but one that I'm honestly fine with. But also, you get cantrips, which, like, sure, you only get 2 for most of the game, then you get 3 later, 10th. The cantrips were a cool addition, though honestly, I'd say that they weren't really useful, because it's like, there just aren't many options that are good on your character for cantrips on the druid list, so it doesn't really play as well. But we get to the spell stuff where, yeah, you can't pick evocation spells. Yeah, this is, while it's not as bad as the Bard, only being able to take half the spell schools and not even the arguably more powerful 4. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, though at the very least it's just evocation, and spells such as Thunderwave were actually transmutation spells in here, which I guess was a change to make it where bards could use them without thinking, wait a second, evokers can't use these now. What? But anyway, it's fine. Spellcasting, it's good, with another really positive change. You prepare spells, which, thank you. It solves a bunch of problems with using the utility spells on the Ranger list, where previously it was really hard to pick them, because it's like, you can either take this or something that's broadly useful and contributes to combat a lot more. So it made a lot of sense that, yeah, you're just prepared now. It fixes a lot of problems. Also means that we lose primal awareness, which was a cool feature, but I can understand it getting removed, especially with being prepared. And then the cherry on top, favorite enemy. This is the beginning of a very positive change that leads us to where we're almost perfect. But Hunter's Mark is now baseline. Yes. It doesn't take your spells known or prepared, so yes. And it doesn't take concentration. Thank you. Nobody likes losing their Hunter's Mark because they got poked. Or having to drop Hunter's Mark just to cast something like Hail of Thorns or something. But it's not quite perfect. As you see, it eats up spell slots again. Arguably, the most annoying part of Hunter's Mark is that it eats up spell slots. So yeah, no, not quite there yet, Wizards. At the very least, it's better because you can Hunter's Mark and still use stuff like Hail of Thorns and all that. So it is definitely a better place, but it's still got a ways to go. So it's certainly better than what we have currently, where it's just a massive mess, as base 5e Ranger sucked so much. And in Tasha's favored foe wasn't the UA favored foe, which was this, but you had whiz uses per day for free and was absolutely perfect. This, it's absolutely better. And if it launched like this, I would be fine with it. I would like if it had alternate uses, but at the very least, this would be playable. And way more playable than before. Second level is fighting style. It's fighting style. Still what it was. But that's all you get. So a nitpick I have, and I've always had actually, is Rangers should get their own version of Divine Smite. This is something I actually did for my 5.5 project, where I gave them a spell called Predator Strike as their Divine Smite. We'll get to that stuff eventually. But, it is what it is. Ranger subclass. I do believe the progression changed a bit because of the standardized progression. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it is what it is. Though I think Ranger fared a bit better than some classes, because theirs were, I think, roughly like the standardized progression, but oh well. Extra attack, it's extra attack. Hard to screw that up. Unless your wizard's giving Thirsting Blade even more extra attacks for some ungodly reason. 7th, you get Roving, which I believe is a level late, I want to say, but it's Roving. It's the same as it was. Which is actually nice that they kept it the same. 9th, you get 2nd Expertise. That's just how Expertise works. Though it is weird that Bards are the ones who don't get Expertise at 1st level, but they are full casters, so nah. 11th level is Tireless, which is a level late, as I recall. Because I think these two swapped levels, actually. But you get temporary hit points. They're nice to have. And you decrease exhaustion, which, yeah, that can be useful. Especially with the new exhaustion that you might actually use. That apparently isn't showing up. Which I really hope is brought back, where it's like, yeah, you have -1 to everything. Instead of, oh gosh, are they bad. Nature's Veil. Bonus action, become invisible with a spell slot. It's fine. It works. Feral Sense is at 15th, Blind Sight 30 feet. This is way too short. It's cool, it's nice, but I would like Blind Sight with actual distance and reach. Foe Slayer at 18th. Your Pinnacle. Hunter's Market deals D10 damage instead of D6. Yeah. At least it's an actually good capstone where it's like, yeah, it's D10s instead of D6s. Boom. And it's a design that I really like where it's, hey, we know you have this spell. Here's an upgrade to make your spell even cooler. It's awesome. So I do really like that sort of thing. But ultimately, meh. It's fine. Though I wouldn't mind if it was maybe earlier, but oh well. At the very least, it's kind of like, hey, here's a reward for sticking with Ranger, which is a traditionally kind of crappy class in some aspects. But hey, it's definitely a nice buff. So that's the base Ranger from the first Experts UA. Then we go over to Playtest 6, where, yeah, things got a lot better. All right, so here we are on Ranger still. So let's get going. I also went to the restroom, by the way. So that's where that came from. But anyway, so we get on to the beginning. So we have Deft Explorer instead of Expertise. So you get 1 Expertise, and you get to choose 2 types of terrain. So you have advantage on nature checks about the chosen terrains, and advantage in survival checks to track creatures in them. And when you finish a long rest, you get to change them. So yeah, I've mentioned it before, but this ultimately, I think on its own, Deft Explorer is fine. Like the 2 terrains, it's kind of meh, but at the very least, having to, you might occasionally need it, where it's like, oh, you're going from mountains into the Underdark, or, you know, you've gone, you're wandering through this grassland region and you're going to go into a desert, or, you know, you're going from the forest into a swamp, or you're like along the coast and going to an Arctic region, then yeah, it's fine. So having 2, it's not bad. It's just not, you don't really use it a lot, but you can use it. And it's a lot more, it's fine. Like, any more, you don't need. But, just 2, it's okay. And the ability to change favorite terrain, perfect. Thank you. So this, I think it's good. It's a cool idea, like, trading expertise for the secondary benefit, I'm fine with. It's a cool one where it's very thematic, and it gets even crazier if you chose expertise in survival, which is a good one for Rangers, though. Perception is probably the number 1 expertise you want, with number 2 being survival, but it's a fun one. Spellcasting. School restrictions are removed. Thank you. And you're still actually preparing spells. I don't have to complain about terminology changes. Yay. Also at first level, weapon masteries. So, yeah, I don't like weapon masteries. Like, compared to cantrips, I do like the idea that they have this over cantrips, which I think is actually more fitting, where you don't get cantrips, you're a martial character, so you have weapon mastery instead, which fills a similar niche. It's just, and I like the idea of having weapon masteries. I just wish weapon masteries were actually fun and interesting, and it wasn't ludicrously broken by the fact that Vex exists. Yeah. That really screws up the balance. Second level, fighting style still here, but there's also favorite enemy. Not the biggest fan of this getting moved over to second level. And heck, I might even say swap this in Depth Explorer. I think it'd be fine to swap them. But you still get Hunter's Mark baseline. Thank you. Doesn't count against spells known or prepared. And you get whiz uses per day without a spell slot. But it still has concentration, which it's fair. And while I would normally insert complaint about how all of your smite spells use concentration, that may or may not be removed, as there's a glimmer of hope with the Paladin and how all their smites change to work like Divine Smite, or more like Divine Smite, where they're reactions to when you hit. I am hoping, with all my hope, they apply that to Rangers spells too. That way, you can finally play the class as it always should have been, where you can Hunter's Mark and Hail of Thorns or Lightning Arrow or any of the other spells. Of course, you couldn't Hunter's Mark and Ensnaring Strike, but well, that is one advantage the concentration-less version had. Like, perfect world, we'd have both. It's way more fun to have both, but ultimately I do prefer this version of favorite enemy in how it works compared to the expert classes version. Though I would like it at first level still, but oh well. It's okay. I also would still like a Ranger Smite spell, but oh well. Also, this is the one you get a spell as a feature I hope stays. Because A, it doesn't work like the rest where it took your spell slots because it has its own uses. And B, Ranger needs it. Please. Ranger subclass, largely unchanged, I think. Oh yeah, you get... So certain features swapped levels, like roving and 7th is now 6th. Subclass features at 7th. Not a big difference. 9th level, Conjure Barrage. Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan. Instead of getting an actual feature, you get nothing. I mean, at the very least, there's another feature here, but still, it's You don't always want Conjure Barrage, and I get that it's to prevent druids from getting it, but I don't always want this spell. So yeah, and fortunately, this is almost certainly going away in the next version, because they mentioned that with class spell lists returning, stuff like this isn't going to happen. We've already seen it with Sorcerer, where all their extra spell features are gone. Yeah, like all but 2 of them are dead. They really went after those. But you also got Deft Explorer Improvement. You only get 1 more expertise and 2 more terrain types. I could not care less about 4 terrain types. 2, I very rarely care about already. 3 or even 4? No. Please just make this normal expertise. Like, the second part is useless. It's like, this is just worse. Like, it's just bad. I'd rather have a second expertise with this instead. Or maybe even have it, you only get 1, but say 5th or 6th level you get, or like, yeah, let's say 6th level you get or maybe, yeah, 5th level you get an extra expertise. So you have 2 expertises now, and then Here, you get the third expertise. You cap out at 3, but you have the other part of Deft Explorer that is still there. And then 10th level, feature swapped. And this uses your wisdom modifier rather than proficiency bonus. And it has whiz uses per day rather than just every short or long rest. Yeah, this is good. And this version I think is better because it's like, you get the hit points when you need it. And you can get it multiple times in encounter, which sometimes, yeah, you really need it. Nature's Veil is now 14th instead of 13th. Because you don't get a subclass feature then. Wrong deal. Because it's at 15th. So it got moved back 1. But as a bonus action, become invisible. Do this whiz times per day instead of using spell slots, which, thank you. It's not fun having to spend spell slots on features. It can be cool if done right, but usually I'd rather just have my spell slots. And it lets me do more stuff per day, which is always nice. 15th level subclass feature. Got moved back 1. 17th level, Conjure Volley. Yeah, no. Feral Senses. Still not a fan of the 30-foot blind sight. And the reason I don't like the 30 feet is it is kind of short for ranged builds, where it would also be nice to have. So I feel like 60 feet would be better, so it could be more useful on ranged builds, but oh well. Foe Slayer. When your attack roll misses, target 100's mark, add your wisdom to the attack roll. My problem with this is the wording where it's basically just add your wisdom modifier to the attack and damage rolls of your 100's mark target. It doesn't matter that it's optional. Like, it happens anyway. Like, if you miss, add your wisdom modifier to see if it does actually hit. Okay, it's just like as if I added it in the first place. It's just, it doesn't matter if I roll a nat 20 or I already hit with a 17. And the damage is like, why wouldn't I add that? Like, I mean, unless I'm trying to get an enemy to exactly 1 HP, but why am I doing that? Especially me, because I'm going to do that anyway? Like, So it's just like, it's kind of awkward where they've worded it fancily, even though it's just way simpler than it actually in practice. But hey, it is what it is. So I do think this Foe Slayer, it's nice. I would just like it to be worded better. So then we go over to our subclasses where we get the Hunter. So yeah, also quick nitpick because I have to say it. Why the heck is one of these default subclasses the Fey Wanderer? It doesn't need fixing. It's not changed. It's just here. And, like, I guess there's some sort of fancy reason they're doing these, but please, put Monster Slayer here instead. I don't care about your fancy, like, we have a, like, whole idea for 4 corners of the class and stuff. It's like, no, I don't care. Bring Monster Slayer. It needs to be fixed. Heck, even replace it with Gloomstalker, because Gloomstalker's okay. Monster Slayer, not so much, because, yeah, favorite enemy actually working is, yeah, I could use some updates. But anyway, the Hunter Ranger, my personal favorite. So right off the bat, let's get this out of the window. This version sucks. So instead of choosing various things, you're just given 6 features where you're given the best of, like, Hunter's Prey. You're just given Colossus Slayer. Boom. Hunter's lore is entirely different. So whenever you Hunter's mark something, you know whether it has any immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and what they are. Which is actually really cool, and I like it. And I'm glad they've kept it, actually. Then multi-attack. You get Conjure Barrage. Okay, I can't use that as melee. And I can downcast it? So, yeah, the downcasting idea is cool. It's just, it would be nice if it wasn't a 3d8 spell. So you can downcast it to cast it at first level and do 1d8 damage. Whoop-de-frickin-do. It sucks. Then 14th level, you just get Uncanny Dodge. Kind of, but it's upgraded, where you can reflect damage to other creatures nearby. Which, at the very least, if you're going to get a late Uncanny Dodge, it's nice that you get a better Uncanny Dodge for a 14th level feature. Which, fine. It is sad that they lost the first Hunter's Defense, but you weren't really caring about that anyway, were you? But in the new version, the choices are back! Hooray! And Giant Killer is now Retaliator and works on anything. So yeah, it's no longer big stuff. Yeah, that's way better. Hordebreaker is unchanged, but it was useful. Though I think it could be a 10-foot range instead of 5, because yeah, getting 2 people in 5 feet is... yeah. And of course, Colossus Slayer is still the best because it's kind of overpowered. Actually, anything that's like, if it's missing any hit points, it's better. It's crazy. It's like you get a like paper cut and suddenly, boom, D8 damage extra. Not a fan of it. It's like, please bring back Bloodied for these wizards. It'd be so much better and more balanced. At the very least, though, it's not if it's at full HP, which was even worse. And Hunter's Lore, it's just at 3rd level now, which is actually better because a lot of subclasses have 2 things at 3rd level. So having it here, good. Defensive Tactics. It's now just improved defensive tactics, where you get Evasion, Hunter's Leap, and Uncanny Dodge. So, yeah. Basically, instead of the kind of crappy ones that you used to get, you just get the superior ones from the start. Boom. Cool. With Hunter's Leap being a new one that replaced... I don't know what. But there was something else that was kind of crappy, too. So now you have Evasion, Uncanny Dodge, and the new one, Hunter's Leap, which, whenever someone moves next to you, as a reaction, move half your speed away. Basically, better than the Scout feature, where if they end their turn, you get to do it. So, maybe give Scout Rogues this as well. That would be a good idea. But I do like this, where you just get the good ones from start. It's actually good and helpful. Then 11th level, instead of multi-attack, you get a second Hunter's Prey, which is actually really cool. I like this idea that you can get more. So, like for me, I would probably take Hordebreaker at this level, and I still kind of get a multi-attack. As cool as the multi-attacks were, I'm fine with them leaving, not coming back. This is a cool idea where it's like, hey, you have choices. Now here's more choices. Then 15th level, Superior Hunter's Defense. You get a second defensive tactic. Cool. So you can still choose these at that level. So yeah, I think overall, this version of Hunter, basically perfect. Like, the only problem is that Hordebreaker is still a little weak, Colossus Slayer is still pretty strong, just like anything else like it. But overall, I love this version of the Hunter. It's so good. And without further ado, that has been the Ranger, and kind of comparing what we've seen in both versions. Not going over other subclasses because I've already done videos on them. But yeah, that's kind of like my look at the two. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. So like and subscribe to keep tuned in to more of these in the near future. And other stuff that ends up happening, such as more stuff about the 5.5 project I mentioned here. But without further ado, see y'all next time! Halo Zoo, out.